Hey riders, Eric with Ride Adventures here. I want to take you along for a little ride today and show you one of my favorite bikes I've seen in recent years. Honda's Africa Twin, the Adventure Sports version. Great bike, you know, especially if you're of a larger stature, if you've got the leg, the inseam distance to be able to handle a little higher seat height and suspension travel with this bike. This is the definition to me of a great adventure bike. We've had it in operations for 3 seasons now down in Patagonia, Peru, here in Oregon. We're going to be adding more of them in other places that we're operating in. And yeah, just an absolutely great value, this bike that Honda has put out, and I think it'll be fun if I take you along and tell you a little bit about some of the reasons why I like this bike so much. So let's go for a ride. Alright, so let's get back on this beautiful machine. Beautiful? It is. I think so. You know, aesthetically, it's a bit important how good the bike looks, and I like this one. A lot of folks do. The color schemes change over the years, but the same athletic, capable bike is still there. Yeah, loose terrain, doesn't matter. Got the right tire on it, goes right up. The engine itself and that little hill climb I just did, barely having to touch the throttle. What a great engine. The parallel twin, the upright parallel twin they put in this thing. You know, the power is smooth all the way from down at the bottom on up. I'm not going to say it's an amazingly powerful engine. I think they rated it about 95 horsepower, which is a lot on a 530 pound bike. Not amazing, but it's enough. And what more do you really need for adventure riding, for going out and just sort of exploring and kicking around? You know, nobody's timing you, nobody's trying to see how short you can make your adventure ride. Let's just keep it nice and long. And anyway, yeah, so the 95 horsepower, more than enough to move this bike around as I want it to. The only time I sort of regret that they didn't put a little bit more into this engine is when it's say uphill into the wind at altitude, trying to pass somebody at like 50, 60 miles an hour or whatever in 5th, 6th gear. Then it's just sort of a little bit of a dog. But down in 1st, 2nd, 3rd gear, it's a riot. It lights up. The sound of it is just outstanding, and it matches the bike really well. You know, other bikes do have those little quirks. The BMW's Boxer engine, you can feel it torquing to the side and sort of twisting the bike a little bit. This parallel twin just lines up perfectly with the chassis that Honda put together for us here, and the suspension. So speaking of that, the suspension, no fancy electronics in this case on the Africa Twin Adventure Sports. They did change that for the 2020 Honda Africa Twin. They apparently have got that electronic suspension feature in there, and it's great. I can say I've loved it on other bikes. It is a nice thing to have. It's also something that drives up the price of these bikes a little bit, and you know, may not really be necessary once you get your bike dialed in. You know, the suspension is fully adjustable, so you just have to break out the screwdrivers and hit all the clickers and the wrenches and stuff like that. But most of us can kind of figure out our average riding situation and dial it in after a while by having preload and adjustability and the compression and the rebound and all that. You really dial it in really nicely on the Africa Twin, and it'll feel comfortable. You know, you'll adjust it when you put a passenger on back, of course, or luggage, but for the most part, it's a really great set of components that serves quite well. You know, the overall stature of the bike being the Adventure Sports version of the Africa Twin, I like it as a kind of taller than average, heavier than average rider. Listen to that beast light up. Love that engine. Okay, so I was just talking down the engine, but it's actually still a lot of fun. It roars. So, but yeah, this stature of this bike, I love that they did that. That they took the same basic great bike that they already had, and then just pumped it up a little bit, made it a little bit taller for covering that extra ground clearance and needing those extra bits of suspension travel for little things you might not see, little imperfections in the road. little potholes and stuff like that. Nice to have a little extra flow, again, for the riders that are in a situation with their leg length and their size and strength to handle such a taller bike. Excellent job. You know, overall, the simplicity of this bike is a nice thing as well. You know, we're always talking about Honda reliability, and it is a fact. They're sort of the kings of the motorcycle world, along with a couple other Japanese manufacturers as far as reliability and dependability goes. Just year after year, it's just the case. And so the simplicity of its design, and that there's not a lot you have to think about or worry about. Frequency of maintenance intervals is quite normal, generous in fact, and there's nothing, like, in the sense that now the 2020 Africa Twin's going to have this electronic suspension and more adjustments and electronically and settings and traction control and stuff like that. It's like, I don't know, I'm always going to be a fan of this more basic version. This just, when things are a little more simple. People have asked me over the years, what is the best adventure bike, Eric? Well, it kind of depends on what you want. If you want to spend time in shops and various backcountry alleys and stuff like that, and back alleys in different countries around the world, you know, those are funny experiences too. If you like the idea of having to hunker down and wait for parts to show up as you're in a remote town somewhere in Argentina that can't quite get the part that you have for a while, and you see what I'm saying? It's like, I love simplicity, I love reliability, especially as our rental operations you know, depend on the reliability of these bikes. Just year after year, we tend to lean towards the most reliable bikes in operation. We just can't have folks coming in for their trips and then not being able to do it, or losing some of the time because of a simple bike error or bike failure. So yeah, simplicity in design, reliability, and overall, again, the value of this, the Honda Africa Twin, the Adventure Sports, just like its smaller version sister, the just a great value. And what you were paying for this bike brand new compared to others that are equally as capable, powerful, fun, and even not as reliable as you get to some of the European brands. They just don't, they are reliable, and we still do offer them, but there's that couple of R1200 GS's last year that just randomly had engine failures down in Patagonia. I mean, it does happen, and yet mile after mile, rental after rental, the Africa Twins just keep going. We just don't have much to say bad about them at all, especially not when I'm able to ride this one kind of like a dirt bike. You know, okay, like a 530-pound dirt bike. What are you talking about, Eric? But you know, really, it's still got that sort of blade-like, athletic, tall feel to it, so it's not boat-like like the big 1200s are. You know, this one still feels slightly more like a mid-weight, mid-size, and it is with its 1100cc engine that roars. I love it. Just kind of playing around in the ruts here. Fun stuff. Yeah, 21-inch front wheel, 18-inch rear. My favorite combination if I'm going to be doing any off-pavement riding, that's for sure. 1917, yeah, it's okay. Definitely better on the street and the pavement, whatever, but anybody that wants to do some adventure riding in the dirt, I think you're always going to want that 21-18 combination. So on the short list of cons, we did mention in our basic overall review video of this bike, short list of cons was, you know, that engine being not quite so, yeah, there are more powerful engines out there. This is so much more power than I or anyone would ever need, but it is nice every once in a while to have that little extra snort that some of the other bikes have. So I did mention also in that review that the heated grips, why Honda put the switch where they did, it's kind of funny because mine have turned on unintentionally right now. Not a major flaw, but we're gonna have to look into rerouting where that button is for these bikes, because it can happen 20-30 times a day depending on the gloves I'm wearing and the type of riding I'm doing and stuff. Overall though, great motorcycle. The agility it allows me to still do things like this that are can allow me to accidentally slip down into that rut but still make it. And yeah, have a great ride every time with this great bike, the Honda Africa Twin. Love it. Such a great bike, and again, aside from all the agility and the fun that I have with the Africa Twin, the adventure sports model, it's been a darling for us in the rental operations. You know, we seek bikes that are reliable, those that aren't going to have problems. We want you to enjoy your trip to the fullest, and so the bikes that have any recurring problems just don't make it into our operations. But what a great bike. Athletic, fun, and a great value as far as what Honda is charging for these things. So I'm gonna go ride some more. Hope you enjoyed the video. Write your comments down below and ask questions if you have them. We're gonna have more videos coming up in our Adventure Motorcycle Reviews series, and hope you learn from this and share it and get out there and ride with us sometime soon. So take care, everyone.